So it's a holiday weekend in the USA, and Elon Musk and his billionaire buddies are after your Medicare and Medicaid money, and they're trying to do it on a holiday when no one's looking. That's the subject of today's video, and check out these headlines here. It says U.S. Health Department layoffs expand to Medicare and the FDA. We've got to talk about this because I think it's a very important story. And again, they're trying to do it on a weekend. Musk is trying to sneak around doing these shady tactics on weekends when people aren't paying attention, but we are, and that's why we're watching this. Another headline, has Elon Musk become too big to tame? Well, not if we talk about this guy and keep tracks of what he's up to. But this is what it is. It's actually several departments in the health sector. Says the Department of Health and Human Services laid off employees Saturday evening, right? They're firing people on a Saturday. This is the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, the Food and Drug Administration, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And these were emails that were let people know over at Bloomberg what's going on. This was a Saturday night. And in fact, some of the employees are actually really important. It says employees that evaluate the safety of medical devices and conduct oversight of Affordable Healthcare Act. That's what they're going after, right? Also says here, the full scope of the cuts remain unclear. Neither HHS nor the White House, CMS, CDC, or FDA responded to requests coming on a Sunday morning, right? Again, this is all on the weekend. That's why it's hard to get any sort of answers on this stuff because everyone's on holiday. And this is when you go after this kind of money. This is the email that they sent out to workers, right? And it says here, the notices were contained in emails with the subject line, quote, read this email immediately. That arrived for sometime around 7 p.m. on a Saturday night. The letters stated that the employees were, quote, not fit for continued employment because your ability, knowledge, and skills do not fit the agency's current needs, and your performance has not been adequate to justify further employment at the agency, right? And then it says, I guess they're going to put the workers on administrative leave for 4 weeks or whatever. I mentioned this first because I think it's an important story. If you remember, basically what they're saying, hey, we're going to fire people who check the safety of medical devices or sort of how Affordable Health Care Act is distributed. And basically what this boils down to is people like your Elon Musk or Donald Trump's, etc. They're looking for ways to profit off the system. That's what this is all about. So for example, let's say in Elon Musk's situation and his billionaire buddies, if we get rid of regulation, right, get rid of safety on medical devices, that opens up his whole world, right? That's just what he wants to do, is turn it all into robots and AI, right? Him and his buddies like, oh, you know what? Let's just get rid of those regulations and let's just everyone, in the government, everyone buy my robots, and they're going to replace all medical devices because, robots are awesome. That's what this whole thing is about. It's a ways to profit. And so for some people that they may not necessarily notice these changes because it'll be invisible. So what do I mean by that? So let's say, for example, that your Medicare, Medicaid kind of stays the same. I say kind of, but the cost of the equipment, right, that you have to use goes up, or the quality and the safety of the equipment that you're using goes down, right? Do you see how this stuff affects you? And this is sort of why it's important to track Musk, because again, he's always figuring out ways to profit out this stuff. He wants to replace all the medical devices. Him and his billionaire buddies want to get stuff passed and through the regulators as fast as possible by removing regulators, right? Musk always complains about regulations, and I hope you guys see what's going on here. On top of that, the reason why he sort of sides with the right wing is, and this sort of politics here, they're all about cutting government and they hate, the big daddy overlord, etc. And what's so ridiculous about it is that Musk is your big daddy overlord, right? He pretends to be on the right, yet he wants to come in and take over the government, essentially get all of those government contracts, take all that sweet, sweet cash, and remove all safety and protections from workers and just regular Americans. On top of that, other Republicans are actually on to what Musk is up to, right? They can see it as well. Because someone actually asked in the comments just yesterday, what are Republicans saying about this stuff? Because, Republican voters and MAGA, they use Medicare, they use Medicaid too, right? It's not like just only Democrats use this stuff. It says here, Steve Bannon, U.S. hospitals join GOP rebellion over Medicaid cuts. So people are aware of this, both sides of the aisle. It's not a left-right issue, guys. It is more of a top-down issue where Elon Musk wants to be on top. He wants to profit off of Medicare, Medicaid, right? Turn everything into AI and robots. Figure out ways to screw the little guy. That's basically what it ends up being. But listen to this. It's actually quite interesting. It says a quiet rebellion among Republicans representing working class and low income areas against President Donald Trump's legislative agenda has picked up some powerful new allies, U.S. hospitals and conservative agitator Stephen Bannon. He gave an interview recently, and basically this is all about the battle of the rich Republicans who want those big tax breaks against the poor Republicans who are like, hey, we still need that Medicare and Medicaid. Please give it to us, please. We need to stay alive. We like to stay alive. Says here, the party's leaders have worked to placate budget hawks and Republicans in high tax, high income areas, right? Essentially the rich Republicans who have dominated the GOP debate over the extension of the Trump's 2017 tax cuts. It's all about tax cuts for the rich, right? And the corresponding cost-cutting crusade led by billionaire Elon Musk, Trump's most prominent advisor, right? So Trump wants to get those tax cuts for all the billionaire buddies. Elon Musk wants to figure out how ways to profit off his robots that don't work and AI that's a bit scary. That's what this is all about. Says here, now the party's biggest target, Medicaid healthcare system, that ensures 72 million low-income and disabled people, threatens Trump's agenda, right? So essentially, there's Republicans who represent, it's a lot of people, guys. 72 million Americans use this stuff, right? It's important to many, many people, and they're going to push back on this when they realize, oh my God, Trump and Musk are screwing me. It says here on Thursday, Bannon, a former Trump advisor who has emerged as Musk's loudest conservative critic, warned Republicans against taking a, quote, meat axe to the program to pay for Trump's priorities. Again, tax cuts for the rich. Bannon says here, Medicaid, you got to be careful because a lot of MAGAs are on Medicaid. I'm telling you, if you don't think so, you are dead wrong. And on top of that, guys, I want to point out something which is interesting. There was a worker who is associated with the coal mines. He's essentially he is like you say, engineer now who works on people safety, worker safety. This is him when he worked in the coal mines, and essentially what he did, he worked in the coal mines when he was young. Eventually, got a PhD and then worked on worker safety. That's sort of what he's concerned about, and it's not always profitable, meaning that not everything is all about the pursuit of profits. And I want you to hear his point of view on this stuff because it gives a face and a voice to people who work in government for the public good. It says here, coal mining has always been dangerous, one of the most deadliest professions in the nation. In the 20th century, more than 100,000 workers died in the U.S. mining industry. So it's not safe, right? Christopher Mark, that's his name, experienced that firsthand. Quote, I started the mines in 1976. It was almost 50 years ago. And I worked underground altogether for about 2 years. And I can tell you, I was almost killed a couple of times. This is Mark's story. It says, mine safety has been Mark's life's work. In his 20s, he left the coal fields to earn a PhD and then returned as an engineer for the federal government. His efforts have helped save countless lives underground. Quote, it was still maybe a coal miner every week that was being killed by a rock fall. In 2016, we had our first year with zero. A really tremendous accomplishment, right? So this guy, again, he works on safety for workers, which I think it's all important. That's what I'm saying. We're all connected, and what Musk is trying to do is just like cut all these people, right? Cut the safety and even cut your jobs as well. He wants to place everything with robots. It doesn't make sense. But the point is, you have to remember that Musk and Trump were born rich. They don't really have any concerns about regular people, and all they think about is like, how can I, grow my stock price of my company and just make as much profits as possible. They don't care about people at all. I'm telling you guys, that's why I have to go through this stuff. The Mark says also, or Christopher Mark, I think his name is, says, I ask, quote, at the end of the day, you work essentially for the worker, not for the corporations. That's exactly right, said Mark. And we were asked to do this by the public. It was the public's demand that was reflected in the laws that were passed by Congress, and that's all we've been doing ever since. So for you, this is about government budget. This is about life and death. Absolutely, absolutely. And he goes on to talk about how it's important that not everything's about profits all the time. For us, that's what it is about, and that's just sort of an interesting kind of, how can I say, divide in the country. There's some people in the country that look up to Musk, look up to Trump, and they say, guys, look how rich they are. They're always chasing profit. Profit must be the only thing, the best thing in the whole world. And this is sort of why I have to show you guys, hey, when it comes to something like medical devices, I want regulators in place. I don't necessarily want, Musk and his AI and his robots to make them as quickly as possible, as fast as possible, right? To, get them out to you, right away. Don't worry about safety whatsoever. Because Musk, again, he complains about regulations. He hates that it slows him down. They want to, automate as much stuff as they can. This was interesting when I mentioned this one in yesterday's video. I just want to show it again. This is about the NOAA, which does weather forecasting and all kinds of data. And actually, what's interesting when you get in the financial side of it, weather forecasting data is really important to say insurance, right? Because you want to track what's going to happen to homes and stuff like that, or particular regions. The universities study this stuff, and there's a lot of money in it. And essentially, what Musk is up to is like him and his Doge team will go there and just start asking around for all this data, right? And this is actually a picture that was done by actually this is from the NOAA exactly, but this was in the Wired article. But I just want you to see like how integrated our system is, and like all sorts of stuff. You have vehicles underwater, you got boats, you got planes, you got satellites, you got people on computers. I'm just showing you guys there's a massive network to forecast the weather and keep eyes on this stuff. And essentially what Musk and his plan would be then, well, look at all this money. I could get, my satellites in the air. I could get people's data, get the AI manipulating that. I could get my drones underwater, right? He's just thinking dollar signs. And not everything needs to be about profit all the time. I hope you guys understand what my point I'm trying to make with this. And on top of that, I have no problem with, improving our systems. The big issue, though, is that when you got someone like Musk coming in who has massive conflicts of interest, right? That's the big issue there. Because essentially what he can do is like, okay, I'm going to cut this agency. Oh, and by the way, my company does the same work that agency does, right? It's all about figuring out ways to profit for himself. And it's ludicrous because usually we don't have like this massive, cuts all at once, and then these major conflicts of interest where he can profit off the cuts. So that's where unfortunately the person who's going to pay the cost is you and me, right? It's just going to be the regular people. That's 99.9%. And I just want to keep you guys informed of sort of why he does what he does, why he says what he says, and sort of the stuff that he's after. And right now it looks like they're after the biggest money, and even some of the Republicans are starting to push back. That's why I was showing you guys this. So anyway, I wanted to keep you informed. Be careful out there. And I'll catch you all in the next video.